Hello, everybody, and welcome to another My Music. Today, I have Mark from Ash coming from whereabouts in the world, sir?
So I'm actually back at my folks' house, which is Downpatrick in Northern Ireland.
Oh, is it lovely over there?
Last few days were a little bit rainy, but it's like the weather's looking good today. So I've just been out in the garden kicking a ball around with my kid.
Nice. You a big football fan?
Well, that's a different story. I used to be a big football fan and like supported Villa for a long time. And I kind of fell out of love with the game whenever Martin O'Neill got screwed over by the higher up.
Yeah.
And I kind of like just for like the last it was over 10 years now, I think, like just walked away from it, not interested.
Right.
And I started to get back in. I started watching the World Cup again this year and started to go, oh yeah, I used to love this.
Well, I think when you've got a kid at home and they like kicking a ball about as well, that kind of makes you kind of want to go out there and do a little bit of that, especially when the weather's nice as well. We'll be back to talk to Mark all about the Ash re-release of their debut album 1977 after this.
This episode of My Music is proudly sponsored by 13th Floor Sound, an independent record label based in Las Vegas, dedicated to keeping real music alive. Blending vintage analog recording with modern production, 13th Floor Sound is bringing a new wave of music to vinyl. From soulful records to psychedelic blues releases, all coming your way this year. Stay tuned and experience music the way it was meant to be heard. 13th Floor Sound.
There you go. Sound. Right. Now, listen, I'm going to start with some quick fire questions of stuff that's apparently true. You can confirm or deny, really. Apparently, NASA reportedly used Girl from Mars as the hold music on one of their phone lines at one point. Is that true?
Confirmed long time ago, like way back, like in the late 90s, that kind of time.
Wow. That's something special, isn't it? A few bands have been involved with NASA at one point.
For all we know, it might have been the hold music for like a week or something, but we were told that it was true. So
there you go.
I don't know. And then I guess this past year you had the whole Artemis thing, and they used the Zaharusta song that we kind of like reworked the music from 2000, Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
And used that as like intro music for the live shows, and then tagged it on the front of the album. And I think someone at the European Space Agency heard it and thought, "Oh, this is too good not to use." And they used it in the sort of like the week before the launch, the sort of like the hype video that they put out, which was pretty cool. So it was pretty. I mean, the video that they put was like, it was like all them sort of like walking down the gangplank towards the rocket and stuff. It was quite like epic.
Do you know what? I think at some point someone needs to compile a book of all of the sort of band stroke artist stories that have got something to do with NASA. Because I know, let me see, I'll get a copy of it. In his autobiography, or it's his diaries really, Steve Hogarth from Marillion talks about driving Neil Armstrong around the motorway at top speed. And turning to him and going, are you okay? And he went, son, I've been faster than this.
Yeah.
But I know Marillion had music played by Tim Peake when he went up into space, and Steve Rothery's written music that's gone up into space as well. So I think there's probably loads of stories of bands and music in space. It'd be good to just compile them all together at some point, I think.
And then like the radio waves just come out of the planet and just keep going forever.
Yeah, exactly. So if it's played up in space waves, your music, you never know where it might have reached. Like, definitely Mars, though, maybe.
Should have hit there at least, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So the original working title for 1977, which was the first album, right, it was originally Guaranteed Real Teenagers. Is that true?
That was used as sort of a tagline on Trailer, the mini album beforehand. So we used that on like as the backprint of T-shirts, and it was actually inside the artwork of Trailer. So I would say deny
on that one.
There were other working titles for 1977 which were pretty bad.
Really? What was the worst one? Can you say?
The worst one was Young, Dumb, and Full of.
Okay. You're glad that one didn't get used. I mean,
Yeah.
1977 just had a great feel to it, didn't it? Really. I mean, but
You know what, the story behind it was we could not come up with a title name, and we had a suggestions box in the studio, and that previous title I just told you was like one of the ones that got chucked in there. It was that we were down to like the last day. We had to give the record company the title, or the album was going to be delayed and pushed back a month.
Yeah.
And because they have set up times and stuff for our work and whatever, and they're like, if you don't give us a title by tomorrow, the album's put back. And it was like, damn, we couldn't think of it. I mean, we were just like, what? Well, like, I think someone just came up with 1977 is the year me and Tim were born. And then it was like, we kind of thought it was a bit safe and a bit, because back then everything was, about like poking the bear and whatever. And we kind of felt like 1977 was a bit safe, but we kind of like thought it was better to be safe on that than to like go with any of these other titles. So that's what it was. But I think it was actually turned out for the best.
It certainly did, yeah. Look, I think the story behind like artwork on albums and names for albums are brilliant. We had Derek Shulman on here one time who had signed Bon Jovi. He was the the record guy behind Bon Jovi, and he told the story of the Slippery When Wet when that came out, because the record company wanted a skimpily clad woman on the front, and Bon Jovi didn't want any of that. So that cover that you see,
It was iconic.
yeah, which is iconic, it was literally he got a black plastic bin liner and got it wet and then wrote with his finger on it and took a photo of it and sent it back to the record company and went, there you go, it's either that or nothing.
Brilliant.
I know.
Sometimes you just have to put the record company in the place.
Yeah. That was definitely one of those times.
Yeah.
Hey, the title, Free All Angels,
yeah,
apparently came from Tim spotting the phrase on the back of a Hell's Angels t-shirt.
Confirmed.
There you go.
We actually used, we had some friends who worked in, they were basically security guys, but they were also part of the Hell's Angels, and they sort of like, around that sort of like Free All Angels time, the album was #1 and everything was crazy, and they just had we had a couple of guys who came on to sort of like do pit security, because we'd seen in the past, not very often, but sometimes the sort of like in-house security could get a bit rough with kids going over the barriers and stuff. And we were like that kind of got us a bit annoyed. So we were like, if we bring a couple of our own guys on tour and make them sort of like the heads of pit security, if anyone gets out of line, then they got to deal with them. And it just created a much better atmosphere in the shows. And it really did work.
Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, I started helping with a club night in London. And I went to a talk that Mr. C from The Shaman did on running his club, the Enid. And he said that one of the bits of advice for any club owner is get your security right first. If you make people feel safe, then people will come.
Yeah, if you go into a club where you have really intimidating like security, it just creates a bad vibe, and people don't loosen up. And I don't know. Yeah,
there you go. So yeah, good advice. There you go. A young Drew Barrymore is supposedly on the cover of Get Ready single.
That is true.
Yeah, it's true. People can go and Google it now.
Very limited 7-inch we put out on Fantastic Plastic Records, which was like a little label from Northern Ireland, and I think it ended up being a B-side or something. But I think it was just like because Drew Barrymore in ET was just great.
Has Drew Barrymore ever spoken to any of the band about it?
I don't think we've ever met her. I'm pretty sure. We've met loads of people over the years, but I don't think we've met her.
Well, maybe we should try and make that happen.
Who knows?
Although she might want royalties, so maybe we just keep quiet about it. I don't know. I'm sure it'd be fine. Okay, the first 10,000 copies of the original 1977 CD apparently had demo versions of Jack Names the Planets and Don't Know hidden as pre-gap tracks.
Yeah.
Is that true?
You put it in the CD player and you press
rewind.
You press rewind, yeah.
Yeah.
And it would go back. It would go backwards from the beginning, and then you would find like these two songs, which were like originally released on a 7-inch by our manager.
Oh, what gave you the idea for that?
I think it was whenever CDs were kind of relatively new, and someone at the record company just said, "Oh, there's this trick you can do this." And we thought, I mean, because a lot of people at the time were putting little hidden tracks at the end of the album,
Yeah.
and we did that anyway with "Sick Party," which was like the throwing up song. But then we thought, well, we could. So everyone's done a sort of hidden track at the end of the album. What about that? That sounds like a good idea, like to hide one at the front.
Oh,
But
do
then
you
we
know the
put
one that I loved? I loved.
it.
Was it is it Alphabet Street by Prince, the album where when he recorded that, he literally just did the whole thing as one track,
Oh, okay.
which was great because you have to play the track.
You gotta
You have to play the
yeah,
whole
one track.
album.
I've actually noticed that, I was just from watching YouTube a lot, because I think people generally don't watch too much television anymore. It's for me, it's all watching YouTube. And I've noticed that, like, on bands, when they're putting their music up, rather than just putting up like videos, which is what most people do, some people put up the whole album on one track. So if you want to listen to the whole thing and not get slammed by a million adverts, you can do that, and I was like, oh yeah, I was just saying we need to do that on the Ash official YouTube.
I'd love it if it was an option on things like Spotify. You start playing it. You can't just play the single. You got to play the whole album. That'd be great.
I think it's good. It's a good idea. It's like albums are supposed to be consumed as albums and not just like 3 minute soundbite.
Yeah,
But people's
it-
attention spans are so short these days.
yeah. What are you going to do? I mean, what can we do with people? I mean, people, you just need to learn to sit in something for a little bit longer. It's so much better for you. It really is. Now, listen, before you were Ash, you were apparently Vietnam. Is that true?
Confirm.
Yeah.
That was me and Tim's first band.
That's a great name, isn't it? Why did you choose to move away from that? Too contentious?
Well, we started that band when we were 12.
12.
Yeah.
And you were 12 and you called the band Vietnam. That was pretty
Well,
pretty funky for a 12-year-old, isn't it?
We were we used to read Kerrang magazine, or it was Raw magazine, all the metal magazines, and it was all about the sort of like the names of the metal bands and the artwork of the metal bands. And I think we just thinking of like jaggy edges to the logo and stuff.
Yeah.
I just thought like Vietnam could be like this big scythe at the front of it, and like.
So you sat there for hours, like creating the lettering and.
Yeah. We had a proper logo and everything.
Yeah, so did we.
And we didn't really. I mean, we were with children. We didn't have no idea about the history or the politics of the Vietnam War, but it just seemed like it was war. And I guess at that point, I mean, you had a lot of metal bands who were like war obsessed, like Manowar or whatever, and it was like, or Megadeth, and it's like all about like war kind of imagery. So it made sense to 12-year-olds.
No, honestly, I'm with you there. I mean, I was 14 in the first band, and we were called XL, literally. But the writing of it, I did all of the lettering, whatever. I was really into things like Roger Dean, so all my letters were really fancy and had like bits inside the letters and stuff as well. Those were the days.
Yeah, I mean, someday I kind of want to do like embroidered patches off the Vietnam logo and then just sell it on the merch stand, just as a sort of like completely obscure deep cut, and then only people who know like the lore of the band will want it.
I love it. That's brilliant. Thank you very much for that. It was great. So listen, 30 years. Yeah, does it seem like 30 years since 1977 came out?
Well, a lot has happened in that time. So in some ways it does feel like 30 years, but in other ways, you can sort of like, you can trigger memories from that long ago and it seems like yesterday. So yes and no.
You played a special gig to kind of celebrate that at OES Centre in Belfast, didn't you?
That was kind of like a little PR like launch show just for this tour, because we knew we were going to do the tour later in the year, and that was kind of like our like kicking it off with like a sort of like announcement of it, and it was like, so we did like a stripped back kind of like it was like semi-acoustic in a way, because I was just playing on regular bass. Rick was doing like less heavy drumming, and then Tim was playing acoustic, but with like a fuzz pedal. So it kind of like it was very stripped back, but it was like, you know,
Did it feel nice to kind of sort of kick off the celebration of this in that kind of stripped back way, though?
yeah. I mean, originally we would have been practicing and we called it the shed, but it was actually an old stone cottage where we, you know, practiced when we were kids. And I don't think we had an acoustic back then. It was just, you know, we had mail order guitars from the back of Kerrang, which we got for Christmas for like, I think they were 90 quid each. Santa brought us them when we were like just before we turned 12. So like the band started like that Christmas basically. You got like this like battery operated 2-watt amp with the like an old 9-volt battery would like run it. I mean, and it lasted for like half an hour before the battery ran out. But like eventually, I think it was a few months later, we got like amps or whatever, and then we were just like, Tim's parents had an old stone out cottage.
Yeah.
Like it was just an old like ruin, and it was like using for stuff, throwing lawnmowers and stuff in. We cleared it out, and that became where we practiced, and it was very, you know,
You must remember a time when in the back of all of those magazines like Kerrang and you know, Melody Maker, Enemy, and whatever, there were like adverts for Axe as a mix.
That was Axe was the first bass I had.
What was it? It was like everything's sort of like £99 or less.
Yeah, it was like, I think it was 90. I think specifically remember 90, and like 90 quid was like kind of taking the piss to be asking for Santa for something that expensive. So like we kind of like chanced it, and we ended up getting them. So that was good.
Oh, there you go. The biggest trouble was trying to keep any of that stuff in tune for any length of time, because
yeah, they weren't great guitars, but like, I mean, at the time you didn't know any better, so you just learned to deal with it. And like the action on the bass was so high that it was like playing like fucking cheese grater, like it was cutting into your fingers.
Yeah, exactly.
But
it's learned that way, right?
You learned that way, and that was just normal. So you didn't know any better. You just, you know, obviously got calluses in your fingers, but that's what it was.
Yeah. And the first time he bought a proper bass, he was like, oh.
When I got the first Thunderbird when we got signed, I was like, holy, this is so easy.
It's almost playing itself.
Yeah, basically.
It really is. There you go. There's a song on here on the reissue called Bittersweet Blue.
Yeah.
Okay. That's been talked about by hardcore fans for years, but why is it resurfaced now?
Well, it was never called Bittersweet Blue up until like a few months ago, but there was a song called Diamond Rick, which might have been mentioned in a few places that only a few hardcores would have like picked up on, but it was a song which never got finished at the time. For 1977, we recorded the backing track, the drums, bass, and guitars was all recorded in the 1977 session. It was the first song we actually recorded for the album, and for whatever reason, Owen, who was, you know, co-producing the album with us, he seemed to think that it was just too much like what we'd done already, and he called it too indie, and he was like, we need to sort of like move forward from that. And we were kind of a bit gutted because we thought it was really good, but like we were also like, okay, you know, we'll go with it. So we went on and recorded the rest of the album as it was.
I guess because when you first came out, you sat in quite an interesting position because you weren't like a Blur, but you weren't Nirvana either. You were kind of in the middle, and that was an interesting middle ground, I think, for a lot of us.
Yeah, well, we definitely felt more musical influence from across the water than like this whole Britpop scene. Yeah. It's not to say that we didn't have influences from bands. There were obviously influences coming from everywhere, and from pop music, British pop music, but the we were listening to mostly was like bands like Nirvana and Sonic Youth and Mudhoney. Yeah. And then also a band who were a few years older than us in school called Laser Gun Lund, and they were like very heavily influenced by bands like Iggy and the Stooges and just like real grunge stuff. Yeah. So that was, I think that formed more of our sound, and then Tim's dad was very big on sort of pop music like ABBA and the Beach Boys and the Bee Gees, and he was constantly playing that sort of like 70s pop music. So it was kind of weird mashup between 70s pop music and like the sort of grunge scene, and then also like the metal stuff which we grew up with. Like from, you know, as I said, from about 12 years old, we were obsessed with metal. So and then you know, after Nirvana, you know, then Weezer came along, and it was very much the sort of like almost the same kind of like uh blend of influences.
But do you feel like you almost gave like the British audience in a way, like someone local to follow, as opposed to an American band?
I think we just sort of like, I think things just sort of lined up where there was a lot of young kids who kind of related to us. We were the same age as them, and there was definitely still an appetite for sort of like American music, or you know, like sort of post grunge music. You know, Green Day had blown up around that time as well. So there was like, yeah, I mean, we kind of like flirted around the edges of different scenes, you know.
I'm going to ask you because Tim's not here, so I can ask you and get an honest opinion. What did you make of Tim's Christmas album with Emmy the Great?
Oh, the Christmas album, I think it's fun. It's great. It's cool.
I think it's
Or
great, yeah.
quite often on the run up to Christmas, we'll sometimes play some of those songs, you know, at Christmas show.
I think there's not enough new Christmas songs being made at the moment.
Well,
Do you know what I mean?
We are thinking of doing another one for this year, not in a full album, but like
An EP or something like that. Yeah.
maybe not even EP, just like a song, like but
A
a new
song.
one. And then the plan would be like every year do another new one, so that eventually there'll be enough to put together as an album. Because like to do a full album is quite an undertaking, but if we do like one or two a year, maybe then we'll get there eventually.
Then eventually you'll have the now that's what I call Ash at Christmas.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
No, that's what I call it. Christmas album.
Yeah, that's got to be it when it finally comes out. You went into Rockfield Studio for 3 months to make 1977. Is that right?
It might well be 3 months from start to end, potentially. Yeah.
But the story goes that you didn't actually have most of the album.
We'd already recorded the 5 singles,
right? But not the rest.
Then we had to do the rest.
Yeah.
And I think that's right. I think that's the right order. No, you know what? I think that we'd done the first 3 singles. So Kung Fu, Coath, Mars, and Angel Interceptor, they'd already been done and released, and they were all like, you know, singles. And then it was like we went in to record the rest of the album. And oh yeah, and Goldfinger, we kind of like, they quickly became like, okay, they're probably going to be singles. And then we recorded and then wrote the rest. Wrote the rest kind of like on the fly.
Now listen, Goldfinger, that's got a reputation as a song because you almost left that off, didn't you?
Well, we didn't. We thought it. I personally didn't really get it initially, and Tim thought it was weird. He didn't. He thought there was something weird about it, but didn't. He himself wasn't sold on it, but he thought there was something interesting about it. And then when we played it to Owen, Owen was like, "This is really good." And then he kind of it was Owen who really pushed us to continue, you know, finish it and record it.
It's cool. Did he come in every day with a T-shirt that went Goldfinger on it or something?
No, he was just like he came over to Downpatrick and we kind of routined a bunch of the songs, just played what ideas we had to him in that like Stone Cottage I was telling you about, and he was like, okay, that was one of the ones that were top of the list. He was like, first, like, we're doing that.
I've got another story which I'd love to confirm whether this is true or not. So apparently you and Tim were only 17 when you were signed, so you weren't legally old enough to sign the contracts yourself. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. You had to get your parents' signatures and your headmasters. Is that true?
Oh, not the headmaster. There's a different story with the headmaster. Our parents had to sign off on the record deal.
Right.
Because they were still essentially guardians. The headmaster was a different story, that he had to sort of like, our manager at the time, he had a tour with Elastica, a UK tour with Elastica. Elastica had just blown up, and getting that tour was like a big, you know, huge opportunity for us. And he then came to our school and stood outside the headmaster's office to go in and basically ask permission for us to get out of school for like 2 weeks and go on tour.
Oh, what a great thing to have to be asked to
And then
sign.
the headmaster, Jack Ferris, he was a cool guy actually. He said, right, on one condition, as long as they do their homework every night. And Tab was like, yeah, sure, I'll make sure that they do their homework. And he was like, okay, then they're free to go. And then we didn't do a single piece of homework. As you wouldn't when you're on tour.
Kids, do your homework. It's very, very important. But of course, if you get a record contract, who cares? Of one of the songs, I didn't ask him this when he came on because we were talking about his solo projects, but Rick apparently got into drag for Innocent Smile. Is that true?
I don't think it was just for Innocent Smile. It's probably
it wasn't just for that.
I think it was probably for an extended period of time.
Oh.
And it wasn't just Rick.
It was several members of the band.
I think it was everyone.
It was everyone.
Yeah. There is video evidence of everyone.
Is there? Why was that? Just help you loosen up? Just a bit of fun?
I think it was just a bit of fun in the studio. I mean, Owen was very good at like just creating a vibe in the studio. And I think it actually came from and I think there was, around that time Kurt was doing a lot of like dressing up in drag and playing on in dresses and stuff. And we just thought it was funny. And there was like a bunch of charity shops in Monmouth, which is where Rockfield is. And one day Owen was like, go into town and get yourself a bunch of dresses and we'll record these songs and drag. And that was it. I mean, it was just like, sure, let's just do it. It was fun.
I love the idea of that. I mean, the thing is that, and people forget this, is that recording studios can be boring.
They're quite sterile environment. And also, if you end up doing like 20, 30 takes of a song, it can be it can lose its magic if you're just, doing repeat things. Owen wasn't quite like that. I mean, Owen was more about creating a vibe in the room and just trying to capture the vibe. And then if it needed it edited, then he'll tweak it later. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or maybe like a little overdub, but not like, yeah. Yeah, you want it to sound as live as possible, and it's got that kind of feel to it anyway, hasn't it? Which is good. Rick also shouts, "Whoa, yeah, we've got it!" at the end of a song. What happened there? Was that just unscripted? Did that just happen off the cuff?
He probably just got to the end of the song about messing it up and was like quite happy about it.
I love that. It's just, these little nuances with songs are just what makes songs so special. When you look at what's going on in the world now with sort of AI producing music, is it for you, is it still all of those little kind of, off the cuff moments, the mistakes or whatever, that is actually the thing that you feel as a musician that everyone should be holding on to, really?
Yeah. I mean, that's what makes the music human as well. So, AI is definitely I mean, there might be areas where, certainly in medicine and stuff, that there might be big benefits from it, but like we have to be very careful about where it goes. Like, do we want 80% of people's jobs to be like, eliminated because some corporations can make more money from it? It's just, yeah.
I know, it's true. How much of the album is really like just Star Wars jokes?
There is a few in there.
Yeah.
Well, there's obviously the TIE Fighter at the start.
Yeah.
There's the dark side, light side, sort of like name drop. There's actually the theme. There's a little bit of like A New Hope, like
John Williams.
Yeah, John Williams, like motive at the end of Dark Side, Light Side.
Yeah.
There's.
Did you all go to see Star Wars together at some point?
We were Star Wars fans when we met, but we had obviously seen the movies before that. But then we saw the prequels together. I think we saw Phantom Menace in Man's Chinese Theater in LA whenever it came out. And we saw the special editions premieres in Leicester Square together. Got invited to it.
Wow.
We played on the set. We played a rap party of Phantom Menace at Leafson Studios, which was Ewan McGregor invited us to do that. That was pretty crazy. And they built us a stage in the Theed hangar amongst the N1 Starfighter.
That is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah,
What was that like?
That was pretty fanboy dreaming.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
then we got to go to like the other prequel. We got to go to the premieres of, Attack of the Clones, and I actually got to go to the sort of the MTV media event at Skywalker Ranch for Revenge of the Sith, which was cool.
you've had stormtroopers at the Roundhouse?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the Five Worst is like sort of the costuming group, and they do a lot of charity work. So quite a few of our shows, they'll sort of come down and sort of like have collection buckets or whatever, and raise or gather money for Alzheimer's or whatever it is. And it's always fun having them there. I'm sure they'll be around for the shows later this year.
Listen, it's been fabulous talking to you and sort of reliving a bit of 1977 again. And hopefully it's answered some questions that some people have got out there about the album. Last question for you. What have you never been asked on an interview that you wish you had been asked?
Oh, well, you're never going to know that until you're asked it.
Yeah. Well, then that's why I ask it.
I don't know, but it's going to be something which sort of triggers a memory that you yourself are not aware of. I mean, what I would say as far as like we went and shot a video for Bittersweet Blue, a few weeks ago in the stone cottage or shed that we would call it, and so that's being currently edited and that's coming out in next month as a sort of like a video for the single, which is the re-release. And like going back, and it's been a long time. It's been probably it's well over 25 years since we were last in that room.
Wow.
And going in there for we did shot the video over 2 days, and being in that environment for like that length of time, so many memories came flooding back that it was like it kind of did feel like we were in a time machine. It was so weird because lots of things that like smells or like things you haven't seen in so long. It was cool. But it felt like a time machine, and that has nothing to do with the question you asked me. But I'll just leave it like.
Oh no, I think it does. I think it does. I think it's lovely. I mean, I think when you've had a body of work like that that's so revered by fans, and you can go back and visit it after 30 years, and it's still, it still holds a dear place in everybody's hearts. I think that's nice because you're actually getting to almost see part of your legacy in a way. Yeah. Does it kind of feel like that? Yeah. Now at this
I guess so. I mean, we did the first time we did the 10-year anniversary shows at the Roundhouse. I think we just did one show, and then on the 20th anniversary, I think we did like maybe 3 or 4, and then for the 30th, we've done like, I think we're doing like basically a month of shows, or 6 weeks or something over. Add it all up, but yeah. So I mean, it has.
Can you imagine getting to 60th anniversary of it?
I mean, we'll be lucky if we're still standing, but I don't know if I'll be doing any like low lunges on stage at that age, but I don't know. I think the odds are that we'll definitely make it to the 40th. Anything beyond that is like up in the air.
Anything beyond that will probably require a nurse and a chiropractor on. Listen, Mark, thank you so much for coming and talking to me today. 1977, the reissue. It's out now. Do go and get your hands on it. We will put something special from the album underneath this if you're watching on Spotify. You can press with your thumb now and you can go and listen. Don't just listen to one track. Listen to the whole album. You've got time. You can just put aside whatever else it is that you were doing during the day and spend some quality time really getting to grips with an album that was always fantastic, but it's, even more fantastic now that it's been revisited. Thank you, Mark. Say hi to the rest of them for me. And we will be back soon with more of my music. But until then, from Mark and myself, bye for now.